So today we are going to be building a wooden slat wall in my office. Now, if you follow along the channel, you'll probably know that I've already built a wooden slat wall, but I actually just recently moved, and I love that slat wall, and I love the look of it, especially when I'm on conference calls and things like that. So I wanted to build another one. However, with that slat wall, it takes a lot of prep work and a lot of work, and so what I wanted to do is actually go the easier route when making a slat wall. This is the easier, more expensive route to do. So hopefully by the end of this video, you'll have a pros and cons of going this route versus the route in my other video you can check out right here, where you go through and do the slats yourself. With this one, we're going to be using these wooden slats right here. These are from the Wood Veneer Hub. This is not sponsored by any way. I wanted to go through and do this video so I could see how good they were, how they actually worked. Another reason why I'm going with these as opposed to the slat wall that I built before I just used the wood, these actually have this acoustic paneling right here as well. So this is like my office is a hardwood floor and it's very echoey. And so I also wanted something that would absorb the sound. So I'll be testing that out as well. So I'm excited. My guess is these are going to be a ton easier to go through and install. But we're going to go through and test that and get this thing all up, and I'll show you exactly how to do it so you can maybe replicate this in your house if you want to. Okay, so as you see right here, this is my front door. So as soon as you walk in, this is the room that you see. So my vision is that this is going to be a beautiful wall when people come in. And you can see here's all the crap pushed to the side. I don't even have blinds yet. You can see these are like tacked in here. Those are coming soon. And then I have like this plank board that I want to go through and hang up, and we're going to make this room look awesome inside of here. That's where the slats are going to go. You can see they have two different styles here. They have a wider wood and a thinner, more narrow one. I went with the wider look. This is the American Walnut, I believe. And you can see it's all finished. It's all ready for me to go through and install. Okay, and when it comes to mounting these, supposedly it's pretty easy. I'm looking forward to how easy this is. There's only a few tools that you really need. I'm going to be using some liquid nails here with the caulk gun to put on the backing here. I will also be reinforcing them with some black screws, and of course you will need a drill for that. And then you probably do need something to go through and cut these slats. Depending on your wall, chances are you're gonna have outlets or the length you may go through and cut it. I'm gonna be using a circular saw or a circular saw to go through and do that. And what we're gonna be doing is we're just gonna be drilling the screws right in between here in this black velvet part. The advantage of this is that I don't even need to drill into the wood at all. If you watch my other video on the slat wall that I made there, I do go through and put nails in each one of the boards and then go through and fill them, which took a lot of time on top of the sanding, the finishing and stuff like that. You can see these are already pre-made, very beautiful here. So we're gonna go through and use a little bit of screws and a little bit of liquid nails to get these on the wall. One thing to point out is that these are a little bit shorter than my actual wall, so I'm gonna have to be making some cuts. So when I go through and place these, what I did is I just put this temporary backing down here so that I can go through and mount them and have them rest on this temporary backing. And then once it's in place, then I can go through and unscrew this and move it to the next one. Just a little tip here if you are installing these yourself as well and don't have an extra pair of hands. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is just grab some of these liquid nails here. And I'm not gonna put a lot on here because I'm mostly gonna rely on the screws, but I'm just gonna go through and put a little bit of dabs across this, just like this. And now we're gonna go through and screw that in. Now, if possible, I would recommend having two people for this. It'd be a lot easier if I had somebody that could hold the board in place, so I went through and screwed it, but you can get by using the backing board method that I use here. Okay, so I got this first one in and I realized something that I want to tell you guys just in case so you don't make the same mistake. You'll see here, I have this really cool design where the right side sticks out so that you can overlay. You can see there's a little bit of gap here. You can put the next one and kind of slide it underneath here. The reason why I think I kind of messed up is I think it would be better to mount these left to right. You see how this one on the very right is a little bit wider? That way I can put it right on top of it and have that, instead of having to slide it underneath there, I think this is gonna be better to mount left to right. So I'm gonna take this one off and then mount them left to right so that these little slats, you can see here on this piece, you can see a little bit better. The right side, there's more material in there, and then here on the left side, there's a little bit of a gap. So probably when you're mounting these, I don't know if they didn't really say anything about this, but I think it's gonna be easier to go left to right so you can kind of stack them on top of each other. So you can see right here, we are starting this out with an outlet, if that will go through and focus. So I want to go through and talk about how I'm going to cut out the outlet on this. You could use a handsaw for these apparently if you wanted to. I'm going to be using a circular saw. But what we're going to do is just measure from the top here, from the top of the wall, all the way down to the outlet. And that is 89 inches. So then we're going to come back over here to the board and we're going to mark at 89 inches. And then we also need to go through and measure from the side as well to know where this cut's need to go. Outlet cover goes from 7 3/4 to 11. So that's where we're gonna need to go through and cut out the outlet here. Okay, so not sure if you can see that, but you can see we just outlined where we're gonna go through and cut for our outlet. Now for this, what I'm probably gonna do is I'm gonna drill a hole right through here and then use a jigsaw to go through and cut this out. You wanna measure this a couple of times because these are expensive boards and you don't wanna mess it up, obviously. So as I mentioned, in order to get this outlet out, I just used a drill to kind of cut a hole in the corner here so I could fit my jigsaw into it and go through and cut it out. It was a pretty easy process. I do understand that this will probably be one of the things that will trip a lot of people up, but don't let it intimidate you. Like I said, you could use a handsaw if you wanted to. There are lots of different ways to get this outlet out here. Don't let this stop you from doing this project. Once I got the outlet on there, I just went through and added some of the liquid nails and just started stacking some of these slats. And once I got past the outlet, it was easy breezing. And here's just a closer look at how I'm putting the screws in, just right into the felt in between the wood there. Okay, and you can see here, these are what the screws look like. I am loving this so far. What I am noticing is you do want to put these in as straight as possible because you can go through and get a little bit of nick on the side if you don't. So make sure you are going through and putting those in as straight as possible, but these are turning out really, you can barely even see these screws inside of here, and you can't even see the seams in between these two boards. So this is 2 boards right now, and the way that these are designed, you can see there's no split. Here's what it looks like with a couple of those panels on. We're going to be filling in the bottom here in just a minute because this is a 9-foot wall and not an 8-foot wall, but really easy so far. Okay, so this will probably happen to a lot of people. You can see here that now we have this kind of awkward spot where we have about 1.5 inches of slot here. So what we're gonna have to do is cut one of these off. I'm just gonna use, with this velvet, you can use an X-Acto knife, just like a straight edge blade to go through and cut those. So I'm gonna cut one of them and try and fit it in here. The problem that we're gonna have is, like most walls, this isn't completely level. So you can see here on the bottom, it gets more narrow than it does here at the top. So up top here is about 2 inches, and down here actually goes down to about 1 inch. So we're gonna have to do a little bit of finagling here, but we're gonna go through and cut down one of these slats and hopefully get it to fit on this very end spot. Okay, so all I'm doing is taking just an X-Acto knife just like this and running it along the side here, and we're gonna try and cut this thing off. And took a couple of pass-bys with the straight edge, but it did work to go through and cut out one of the slats here so that I could go through and have that on there. Chances are most people at the end, there's gonna be like a certain length where you may have to go through and do this, so I wanted to show you kind of the process that I'm using here. Okay, so it fits good here at the top, but we are having some problems down here below. It's kind of hard to see probably from that angle, but it still doesn't quite fit under here. So I think I'm going to take the X-Acto knife and cut out a little bit of the back on this so maybe it can rest right on top of here as it moves down is what I'm probably going to have to do here on this side. Take some of this velvet off here. Okay, so I just went through and cut. You can see right here a little bit more off the edge coming around this way. And I think we have a fit now, so we're going to put some liquid glue on this and then kind of shimmy it in there. Okay, that worked out well. Okay, so you can see now the next step is my wall here is 9 foot, and these are, I can't remember the exact height on them, but they're obviously not long enough here. So I'm gonna go through and cut a few of these and kind of match them up. I'm curious to see how noticeable the crease is gonna be here, but let's go through and cut those up. I'm gonna use a miter saw to cut them kind of this way. So let's go through and do that. Now, if I just had an 8-foot wall, this would have been a lot easier, but this is where things started to go a little bit south because my wall was a little bit longer than the slats. So I made a lot of mistakes here, and I want to talk through some of the things that I did and kind of the solutions I found. Okay, so one thing that I noticed when I started to cut these is that they're stapled in the back here. So I was trying to use this piece, and you can see the top is kind of a little bit loose because it's only stapled here at the bottom because I cut it right where the staples were at. So I'm going to show you how I fixed that problem to make sure that these stayed in line. So let's go through and show you. I just basically took a staple gun and put them in myself. Okay, so here's what I mean. You can see I made my mark right here to go through and cut this. And if I go through and turn this around, you can see that the staple is well beyond my mark. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this here staple gun and I'm going to go through and put some staples kind of towards the top of where I'm going to be, not where my cut line is going to be, but right before it. So I'm just going to shoot some staples into here, just like that, into each of the wood. And I'm just following where these staples are at before. So I'm just right in between them. That way when I cut this, because I'm going to cut it, and these staples are going to be on this other piece of wood. And then you'll notice probably that your staples aren't shooting as far as into them as the other ones. So then what you need to do is go through and grab a hammer and just go through and slam them in just a little bit here. So just give them a little bit of whack and get them in just a little bit more, so they're flat when you go to pin them to the wall. So that helped to keep these slats in the right place, but as you can probably tell already, the gap or the line that you could see between the two slats meeting was very obvious, a lot more obvious than I want it to be. I tried using some wood glue on the top of them to kind of put them together, and I thought about maybe clamping them, but as I was putting this part on, I was actually losing a little bit of hope on this wall actually looking good. Like I said, this is only a problem if you have longer than an 8-foot wall, but you can see there, you could see that line very distinctly. And so I had to come up with kind of a nice solution, and I think it turned out actually awesome. So I want to show you kind of what that process looks like. Okay, so this is something to note when you do get these, depending on your wall size. I would say I'd love it to here, and then this is where things kind of went south a little bit. I don't think this looks horrible, but when you have to connect the two, you can just tell that there's a line here, especially because the wood color, it's hard to match up the wood color. So I've been thinking of a solution to kind of make this look better. And what I'm gonna do is I ended up taking one of these panels, I took it off of the back of the panel so you can see it's just the wood here. And what I'm going to do is, I was like looking at it, you see I had it taped here. I'm gonna put this across here to cover up that gap. And depending on how this looks, I might put one also, that falls off. I might also put one at the very top running along this way, so it's kind of matches. So you know, we have two boards running along this way horizontal, and we'll see kind of how that looks to clean up this bottom part here. Now, if you had a shorter wall, this wouldn't be a problem. This is a 9-foot wall, and so it's a little bit taller than the average one. So if it wasn't so tall, this wouldn't be a problem, and I'd be able to just like put the slats through. Ideally, your wall is shorter than these slats. That way you can go through and cut them instead of trying to add on to them like this. So let's see if we can make this look a little bit better. So I just took that slat and grabbed my brad nailer, and luckily I had this trash can that actually was able to hold it up for me. And then make sure you do use a level if you end up using this method here to make sure this thing runs flat. But okay, and I have to say, putting the slat across here made a huge difference. It looks so much better. We ended up running one just around here, the same kind of length here and here to kind of match it up, and it has turned out amazing. Absolutely love the way that this turned out. You can see just how smooth the transition is. You can't see where one panel begins and one panel ends. So now I want to go through and give you kind of my final thoughts on doing it this way with the pre-built panels versus doing your own basically slats. Okay, so now I want to go through and talk about the cost breakdown. I love the background of this. This looks so good. The actual cost breakdown of this versus the DIY version of doing something like this, and then the pros and cons. So when it comes to this wall right here, this is a 9-foot by 11 wide wall. So it's a little bit taller than the slats, and the actual slats are 94 inches tall by 25 inches wide. So I had to purchase 7 slats, and the total cost ended up being just under $2,000 for this wall behind me. So it is a little bit pricey. Now, but when you compare that to the DIY wall that I did, that one ended up costing around $700. So if you're going for pure just value, then you will want to go with the do-it-yourself method. However, there are cons to that method. One, this right here took me less than 4 hours to go through and complete all the way actually time working on it. And it would have taken even less if you have a 8-foot wall as opposed to a 9-foot wall like I did. And if you have less outlets, things like that, it will be dramatically less time. Whereas the DIY version, that one that I did at the other house, that one took probably close to 20 hours of full work because you have to go through and find the right wood slats that are actually straight. You have to go through and sand them. You have to stain each one individually. So you're also waiting a lot of time for them to dry as well. So it's actually like 20 hours of actual work, but then you have to wait lots of times. This you can complete in an entire weekend. So if you are looking to save time, but have a little bit more budget, this is probably the option. If you need something that's a little bit more affordable, but is going to take a lot of time, the DIY version is the option. Now, as far as if I was to just look at the two walls, not knowing the cost or the time that it takes to do them and which one I like more, it is gonna have to be, unfortunately, the Wood Veneer Hub. I was hoping that my DIY version was gonna be better, but this one, Because the way that they do the finish on it, it feels so much better to the touch. You cannot see any of the seams all the way through, and it just looks a lot better. I love the color. They have all sorts of different colors that you can choose from. I will leave a link down below to the ones that I chose in case you want this exact look. What is great is you can actually go through, and on their website, they have like a sample pack that you can purchase where you can go through and buy just like these little things, I think like $5 or $7, just to go through and have them and put them up on your wall and figure out which one you like most. So if you are gonna go through and do this and commit to something like this, I would highly recommend at least getting a couple of the sample ones first, see if you like it, and then go through and order the full ones. Or if you know which one you want, you can just go through and order it. But yeah, that's kind of my final thoughts on which kind of the comparing the two of these. Oh, one other thing, and I know I sound just like gushing about the Wood Veneer Hub, but one other thing about these is that is a huge pro is that it does have the soundproofing panel on the back. The other slats that I have don't have that, so it's like another added benefit because I do lots of recording back inside here, and I have to say the actual look of this behind in the wall looks amazing. Couldn't be more happy with it. Okay, and in case you're wondering, this is what it looks like now, completed basically. Very happy with the way this turned out. The wall just brings everything kind of together. It was exactly what I was hoping it was gonna be. I'm gonna go through and shut these doors and kind of give you an idea of what this looks like. A couple of the things that I like inside of the office is that at night, I like to work at night very often. So you can see here I have lots of LED lights, like one in the corner here, one underneath the desk, and then this one in here changes colors, and then one up here as well. So it kind of adds a nice ambiance at night to the entire room. It's kind of hard to tell in here because it is daytime, but couldn't recommend those enough. Very happy with that. And then we have all of our cables, or everything for filming is basically on this desk. So I have the microphone, the stand, and then this is actually like a little magnet phone stand as well, all put under here. And then I have like a lot of cable management going on underneath the desk. So the nice thing is you can't see all of the wires and stuff there. It's all kind of put together, and then I just have one cord coming through this way, but you can't see it when you kind of walk in through the desk. And then over here, this is probably the thing I'm the most proud about for this entire room is I love Pokemon. So we got some original base set packs here for Pokemon to display on this. I did end up putting another a little soundproofing thing over here to give us a little bit less reverb on this wall. And then I got the Govee wall lights here as well, which I've been really happy with. You can go through and kind of change those out, and it's all hooked up to Alexa, which is really nice. This is another light for filming, and then we got like the artwork to kind of bring everything together. But overall, super happy with the way this office turned out, and yeah, hopefully you found this helpful, and hopefully there's some things in here that maybe inspire you when you are doing your office.